Hello, hello. Real tech. Okay. So I just watched this. I just watched this video, and this person brought up some um important things. Okay, he brought up some important things, but there are things that um that there are things that. Okay, so this person brought up some. Okay, so I just fuck. Okay, reset. Okay, so I just watched this video while I was laying in bed, and I had to get on the computer and talk about it because um there are obnoxious things when it comes to specifically sensitivity, sensitivity and resolution, things like that. Okay. Um, Now this person showed like talked about some cool stuff like mouse acceleration and showed how to get to these settings, right, to change some of this stuff, which is really important. Like, well, the way that I remember it, because I've always used Windows XP and Windows 7, is like mouse sensitivity, right? So I opened up control panel, then I clicked hardware and sound, and then you click mouse. Okay, so something that is really important, and I learned this through playing Counter-Strike, is you want to turn this off. But most games it doesn't matter because most game engines use raw input, which is a it's pulling the sensitivity, the DPI. It's pulling the sensitivity, the DPI from the mouse. It's not controlled by Windows. But just to be safe, a lot of people by default it is this is default. There's 11 bars here, and by default on Windows it is 5 of 11. A lot of people say do 6 of 11 and turn enhance pointer precision off. I like it off. What I really want to stress here is that this stuff, sensitivity and mouse acceleration is purely it's purely preference. Just as resolution is purely preference. Whatever satisfies your brain is what you should stick with. Now, I say stick with because I personally find it very important to play around with a lot of things. Like when I was younger, whenever I was like age age 12 to 19, I didn't play around a lot with like resolutions and sensitivities. I always I always like had the max resolution, and I would have a super high sensitivity, and then somebody told me then I met someone in Counter Strike that like explained to me how this game works. But that doesn't mean that you need a specific sensitivity. What matters is what allows you to be consistent, what feels comfortable, and what brings you consistency. With high sensitivity, low sensitivity, it doesn't matter. Um, if your brain prefers one, or your muscles naturally prefer one, like I have always excelled with using lower sensitivity because I use more of my forearm and my shoulder to aim. But then there's people who use their wrist. They use their wrist, and they they pivot with their elbow. People naturally use different muscles just because that's how the brain is. Um, that's how the brain began to find some form of success, and subconsciously it worked to build consistency off of the success that it subconsciously registered. Okay, now of course people can straight up focus on developing uh, skill with muscles. Like, you can build up to a higher sensitivity. Like, this dude says, "Oh, some of you have too high sensitivity. You need to turn that shit down. Go to 800." Dude, if you naturally use, like, here, this is 1200 DPI. If you naturally know how to be smooth with your wrist and pivot using your elbow, do that, man. If this is 400 DPI, if you like are better at using your shoulder and your forearm, do that, man. That it's all preference. Whatever feels comfortable, whatever doesn't strain your body. Okay, the number one thing that you want to avoid is muscle strain. Like like this guy said it best, Austin CS. Austin CS talks about sensitivity, and he has literally the best take. He says whatever feels comfortable and doesn't give you muscle strain, because you don't want to push through muscle strain. Like even when you do exercise, there is strain that is good and there is strain that is really bad. Like I have a manual labor job, and I used too much. Like I realized one time, I just realized, and I fixed it, and I had to focus on fixing it, that I was pivoting when I was pushing a container that weighs 4,000 pounds. Okay, it's on wheels, so it's not like it's dead on the ground. But I realized that I was pivoting my left knee, and then I realized, like, I'm twisting my back too much, and I need to remain a boulder and stay in a power stance. I need to I need to focus more on using my my shoulders rather than any part of my back. Even though you're going to, that's a whole nother thing though. But I had to focus on developing that like those muscle movements, okay? So that I wouldn't strain myself. All right, now with uh okay, now with RuneScape here, I'm going to show you something that he does not talk about, that is extremely important in my opinion. What really makes players bad at RuneScape, it's not just it's it's not just sensitivity and plugins, okay? There is one plugin in particular that will help you excel in skill. I'm just logging in really quick. Okay, so what will really make you good at Counter-Strike, all right? Or Counter-Strike. What will really make you good at RuneScape is is understanding your player position, pathing, and ticks. Like how ticks as in the game updating. Whenever I whenever I do this, I can't exactly remember the number. Whenever I perform this action, it takes like 4 game ticks, and a game tick I believe is zero point 0.6 seconds. I could be wrong. I could be wrong on those values, but this right here, I'm gonna stand on this tile. Okay. Okay. So I click. It doesn't immediately happen. There's some time in between there. Performing this action, it takes some time, right? Okay, that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. But then there's a thing called tick manipulation. So if I do this, if I eat a piece of food and then click on this fishing hole, the animation happens, I think it's 1 tick less. Okay, so there's this whole thing. For free-to-play method is you eat a piece of food, you click on the hole, you catch a fish, you click on the fire, you cook, you eat, you cook, you eat, cast, catch, cook, eat, cast, catch, cook, eat, cast, catch, and that's a rotation for manipulating game ticks that causes you to successfully catch a fish quicker because you're reducing the amount of ticks. Stuff like this matters, okay? Like 3 tick fishing, or like whatever, like ticking teaks, whatever fucking tick that is. Stuff like that matters. Doing a 5-way switch where like you do shit like this. I theoretically I could wear all of those within one game tick if I was fast enough and I was precise enough. That's another thing that this guy brings up is precision is very important in this game, and that's really what makes you a good player is precisely clicking. Okay, but understanding. Okay, so understanding how the tick system works, understanding how pathing works. Like I don't even completely understand it, but I'm pretty sure that you uh I th- okay, I'm not actually going to speak about it, but player player pathing, understanding how player pathing and NPC pathing works. There's a specific direction that's prioritized for player pathing and NPC pathing. I don't think they're the same. Uh, I need to read more. I'm really bad at remembering these things. But because I'm a muscle memory person. I learn through my actions rather than reading. So I have to perform the actions. I have that type of brain. Um, so learning how pathing works will make you a better player. It's a fundamental. Player pathing is a fundamental. So this purple. Another thing is where your true tile is while moving. I have this highlighted. What is it? Tile indicator in the RuneLite plugin. This is very important. This is very important if you want a visual representation. It is something that you can feel, just like in Counter-Strike, you eventually you practice so often that you can feel how the recoil of the weapon will be adjusted based off of the amount of time you've been holding down the fire button. Like you could feel these things out, or you could just have a visual representation. And as human beings, we always take the easiest path. Um, but you see that I'm I'm here, like my player is here visually, right? I'm right here, but my true location is 2 tiles ahead of my running animation. Okay, so understanding that will uh will make you a better player while doing Vorkath. All right, it'll make you a better player while fighting Vorkath because Vorkath does the whole like fireball thing. She does that phase, and you have to keep moving tiles, right? Because if you stay on the same tile, then you take damage. But but if you understand this method, you can do stuff like this. You can do stuff like this. See, I misclicked because I'm not very precise. Um, but you can do shit like this because your true tile isn't exactly where your character animation is located. So it's important to understand things like this. All right, and he goes on and talks about like as as you can see, sorry, my as you can see, like these are the add-ons that I like use that are the most important to me. Besides Puzzle Solver, I had recently turned that back on. But but there's all kinds of plugins that can help you, that can assist you visually in playing the game. But the fundamentals of the game are click accuracy, understanding pathing, understanding true tile location, understanding the tick system within the game, and and that applies to the entire game. Understanding the tick system of the game, like if you could simply do skilling and like for fishing, you could do barbarian fishing. You could, oops, you could do barbarian fishing. I can't read Lamau, and practicing something like this where you do like knife on the log, click, knife on the log, click, and then you can incorporate like the what is it you do Knife on the log, click the hole, click the knife, click the fish, and then you click the log knife, click, uh, log knife, click, knife food, knife food, log knife, and then you somehow can incorporate drops. Like people have like really really like learned this shit. Like you could a perfect person to watch is Acid Soul or Autumn Elegy. Autumn, I don't know how to spell. I don't know how to spell. But this guy, like watching his gameplay and his old VODs. I even downloaded his old VODs so that I could, his old Twitch VODs so that I could like actually study what he's doing and and so that I could get better. But you could do like I said, you could do fishing. Uh, you could do combats where you practice like you begin to incorporate special attacks, switching your gear, doing special attacks. That's just like doing it on simple monsters, doing your switches. There there are those are the four important fundamentals. Again, clicking accuracy, pathing, understanding player and NPC pathing, um, understanding true tile location, and um, the tick system. Those are the four fundamentals that I can think of. I'm sure there are more. I'm not like a super good player, but I'm like competent, but those are like the real things that this dude doesn't talk about that will actually make you good at the game. Like sure there are plugins that'll give you information that can help you, but ultimately those four fundamentals are what will make you a better player. And you don't just have to do PVM or PvP. You can do skilling. And I think personally like skill. Oh yeah, blackjacking. That's another one. Those bla- uh, blackjacking, tick woodcutting, tick fishing. These things will make you better. Uh, Doing the agility course and practicing my hotkeys aren't working. And practicing high elk while you run around. These things will make you better at the game, and you can do it. You just have to put in a little bit of effort. But if you're someone that is obsessed with challenging yourself and improving your capability, um, if you if you do it minimum 20 minutes every day, like I did with Counter Strike, I got fairly competent at Counter Strike by like going from 20 minutes a day to then practicing 2 hours a day on my aim and on utility and understanding how to counter strafe, how my movement interacts with throwing uh, utility like grenades, um, and then eventually playing playing minimum 40 hours a week, and if you're a hyper nerd, just building your way up or just simply doing 20 minutes a day, dude. You'll get way better practicing those four fundamentals. You don't you don't have to worry about changing your client size. I mean, find it's preference. That's purely preference. Um, you don't have to worry about your resolution or your hertz. Even though like when I play multiple accounts, I do like to play in my native resolution. And if I'm only going to play on one account, I typically play 1280 960 120 120 hertz if I'm doing PVM or PvPing, or if I'm playing a first-person shooter that can handle that specific resolution. If not, then I'll go to the highest resolution that will allow me to do the highest hertz with my current setup. I'm gimped by my cable, not like the hardware. So yeah, just like that shit that shit is purely preference, and and you just play with the options though. I highly recommend playing with these options, playing with the DPI in your mouse. Definitely getting a mouse like a Zowie FK1, FK2, FKC. I don't know, something that's Logitech. I don't really like how Logitech mice feel. That's why I have a Zowie FK2, because it's a it's a mouse that feels really good. The sensor's pretty good. If there's not something that's causing it to spin out, sometimes there's a piece of cat hair that gets in there and I spin out. Um, also, this mouse is plug and play. I think a plug and play mouse is extremely valuable because you don't need a stupid piece of software like maybe I still have it whenever I had, yeah, Logitech GitHub. You don't need Logitech GitHub or fucking Razer Synapse or whatever Razer uses. That's what specifically why I use a Zowie mouse, because it's plug and play. It's got a button here for changing my DPI in the presets of 400, 800, 1200, 1600. So yeah, play around with your options, practice those four fundamentals, and you'll get better at this game. I promise you. This was a lot longer than what I wanted to do, but it's something that needs to be said. I'm tired of people being like very rigid in their advice. Like, I understand that's what you use, but everybody's brain is everyone has a different brain. We all have similar brains, but we all subconsciously create strategies based off of success that we've had, and we've subconsciously or we've consciously noticed, and we try to recreate that recreate that success and build consistency. And sometimes like how I was, you're a bit too rigid. You're a bit too rigid in your options, and you're not exploring enough. I Yeah, so just try different stuff out. Try different stuff out till you find something comfortable. Don't be afraid to change resolutions. Don't be afraid to change your client size. Don't worry about this whole this bullshit of like oh, you're not the exception. You're not the exception. You're the rule. Like, whatever, man. If you want to get a higher sensitivity or a lower sensitivity, practice. Just just practice. Simply doing stuff like what I would do with Kovacs when I was practicing Counter Strike is when I was practicing for Counter Strike is I would raise my sensitivity very high in Kovacs, and I would practice moving my wrist very slowly to get used to moving my wrist. And what that would do is help me develop wrist movements for when I played Counter Strike and I had to do tiny micro adjustments, very small micro adjustments, rather than using my whole shoulder and forearm. It sounds ridiculous, but these things, these focus moments of practicing the fundamentals of a clicking game really do matter. So yeah, just try it out. I encourage you to try it out, and don't be too rigid.